2 canine officers have arrived on the scene, and there still is that Lee County Sheriff's helicopter circling overhead. So it does appear that deputies are searching for someone or something. These community members are marching down the same street where several people were shot this week. They have had enough of the crime, enough of the violence. What you're looking at right now used to be the back of the home. It is now completely destroyed. You can see the roof has caved in. Officials with the Major Crimes Unit describe this as one of the most violent and horrific scenes they have ever seen. We're starting to find some debris left over from the cars and trucks that got stuck trying to come down Golden Gate Parkway earlier this afternoon. We found license plate covers, and this just washed up. It looks like a grill to a front of a car. Sensors are going to be hooked up to every single meter on every single space, and it's going to let you know on your smartphone when a spot becomes available. It's not your typical bar atmosphere. Take a look. There are tons of people packed in here, and they are paying very close attention to this debate. Now, many of those we talked to say it is still way too early to pick a front runner. Family members and neighbors I talked to say the autistic teen is harmless, considers everyone his friend, and the only reason he would resist arrest would be out of complete fear. Face swollen, battered, and bruised, 16-year-old Christopher Perez listens quietly as his family demands justice.
This is a kid. It's a 16-year-old kid with the mind of a 9-year-old kid that cannot even tie his own shoes. That says a lot.
But according to a sheriff's report, a neighbor felt threatened by the autistic teen who was allegedly following her when she called 911 Sunday night.
He thought that he wasn't doing nothing wrong because, like I said, he always said, she's my friend.
Deputies say when they got to the Ospreys Landing apartment complex, Christopher ran away screaming, and when they caught up with him, the teen violently resisted, so they were forced to take action. To get the teen under control, deputies say they had to tase and punch Christopher several times in the face. He was even, quote, unintentionally hit in the head with a flashlight. Neighbors we talked to are in complete shock.
There's no excuse for that. He's a neighborhood kid who's innocent, and because of his size and because of his obvious visible disability, there's no reason for it.
Deputies say during the entire altercation, Christopher actively resisted. But because of his mental disability, did they go too far? In a statement, a Collier County Sheriff's spokeswoman said, quote, all complaints against deputies are thoroughly investigated by CCSO's Professional Responsibility Bureau. CCSO has not received a complaint related to this arrest. Civil Rights Commissioner Victor Valdez says he will file that complaint.
I feel bad. I feel in my flesh. I feel in my hair. Also, I think maybe tomorrow will be my son or my grandson.
Though the damage has already been done, Christopher's family says they hope to stop more innocent people from becoming victim to what they're calling police brutality.
We're not just sending a message out there that the police are bad, but there are several people there that they need to be held accountable for what they did.
I asked Sheriff Mike Scott the questions many of you have been wondering. Is Dr. Teresa Seaver's husband, Mark, a suspect in this case, and are her 2 children safe? A chilling connection Teresa Seaver's family says is nearly paralyzing to think about. One of the men charged with murdering the beloved Bonita Springs doctor is lifelong friends with her husband, Mark. I asked Sheriff Mike Scott if he had anything to do with the crime. That one of these suspects is a friend of Mark Seaver's. Is he a suspect? Is he a person of interest in this case?
Well, I'm not going to speak specifically to Mark Seaver's other than to say that beyond the 2 that we have in custody, as the evidence guides us and people come into the realm of suspicion, we may or may not be prepared to talk about that. Certainly at this moment in time, I'm not prepared to say who else may or may not be, or we believe may or may not be involved in this case.
The sheriff tells me his team has been and continues working around the clock on this case, a case that started more than 2 months ago. The sheriff says his team knew almost immediately that the doctor's murder was no random act.
Early on, we had strong suspicions, but suspicions in our business need to be developed to what we call probable cause.
Sheriff Scott says his investigators were eventually led to these two men living in tiny towns outside of St. Louis, Missouri. He says his detectives packed for a 3-day trip to Missouri and ended up staying 3 weeks because more and more evidence led them to Jimmy Rogers, who goes by the name The Hammer on Facebook, and Curtis Wayne Wright. Sheriff Scott has said from the very beginning that this case is extremely sensitive and releasing too many details could hurt the investigation. He says that's still true to this day.
I can tell you with certainty that when all of the facts about this case are out, everyone will understand why it took 8 weeks, and I think they'll go one step further and say, wow.
Teresa Seaver's sister tells me she's very focused on the 2 young daughters the doctor left behind. I asked Sheriff Scott about that. Have you checked to make sure they are safe?
We have. We've had quite a lot of involvement and interaction with the Seavers children. As recently as yesterday, quite extensive.
As new developments continue to unfold, Sheriff Scott says he does want the community to rest assured now that 2 violent killers are behind bars.
The threat level is far reduced to the good folks of Missouri and certainly to the good people of Florida and all points in between. Both have indicated that they will resist extradition, but I think it's pretty obvious to everyone you can resist all you want. You're coming back to Florida, face these charges.
17-year-old Cam Boland tells me she wanted to look nice for her National Honor Society county election speech here at Ida Baker High School earlier this month. She says it got too hot, so she took her jacket off, a move that ultimately got her disqualified. On top of all of her schoolwork and studying, extracurriculars are extremely important to 17-year-old Cam Boland.
I'm currently junior class president of Fort Myers High School. I'm captain of the girls basketball team.
She also recently ran for county historian for the National Honor Society. It's an elected position she had to give a speech for at Ida Baker High School in front of her peers and advisors. After the votes were tallied, Cam found out she'd won.
I was told I won, and 20 minutes later they said I could not be in my position because I had my shoulders exposed.
This is the dress Cam and another student who is also disqualified were wearing. Although this was an extracurricular event, it was held during the school day, so NHS advisors said the 2 violated the district's dress code.
I was wearing a dress because I never met previously any of the other students from other schools. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted to look nice for a speech.
After she was disqualified, Cam apologized and asked to give the speech again with her jacket on. But she was told no, something that baffles her mom.
Honestly, I thought it was a joke at the beginning. I am a huge supporter of my community and my school. But when my school district fails, not just my student, but all students on their basic rights, I have a problem with it.
I took their concerns to the Lee County School District, and in a statement, a spokeswoman says, in part, quote, the dress code is an implied expectation for events during the school day, as was indicated by the more than 36 students that were in dress code on this day. I then asked what consequences students normally get, and I'm told they usually get a warning, but club sponsors, coaches, and other activities where membership is considered a privilege often articulate a higher set of standards for their students. Caroline Boland says her daughter's hard work and dedication shouldn't go unrewarded because of her wardrobe.
It defies everything I have taught, my husband and I have taught our children. It defies everything they have taught in school in terms of our process, our democracy, what a vote means, the privilege to vote.
Now, Cam's mom tells me she's been constantly reaching out to school administrators and board members, but isn't getting much of a response. She says if they don't get this issue settled soon, she plans to voice her concerns at next week's school board meeting.